Hi everyone, I welcome you all to our tech podcast series. This is Chavi, your podcaster of the day, and we are yet another back with our podcast now to talk about some amazing technologies and to talk about something amazing and special, like we can say energy, the virtual energy I would specify. So to take up these amazing things, we have an amazing entrepreneur today to talk upon the virtual energy storage and how it is actually revolutionizing. Now, to take up this amazing topic, we have a very special guest. We have Ankit with us, who is currently the co founder and CEO at Sheru. So, with that note, I welcome you, Ankit, in our today's podcast. How are you doing?
Thank you, Shavi, for having me here. Doing great.
Amazing, great. So before starting up with anything, would love to know that how this energy thing came up to your mind because this domain is not so much common right now. Only a few people get their steps into the storage energy or the virtual energy because it's still touched by a a very few people. So how you got started?
We are three founders, me, Nakul, and Shikhar. All three of us are batchmates, friends since 2011. We went to BITS Pilani, graduated in 2015. And after that, we worked in this company called Grey Orange Robotics. So, Grey Orange Robotics is actually India's first deep tech unicorn, and they were building robotic solutions for very large warehouses. As a part of working in Grey Orange, we were interacting with a lot of supply chain majors globally, people like XPO, and they were very interested in decarbonizing. So they were interested in switching to renewables in their warehouses. They were very interested in switching to EVs in their logistics, and they saw a clear cost benefit of around 30 to 40% in this switch. So that's the reason why they were interested. But the core problem was that the grid was actually not ready to support the transition to renewables, to EVs, because fundamentally, when we look at the electricity grid, it has not been built uh, historically, not only in India but globally everywhere. It's a bunch of wires. It's not built for discontinuous power sources, or it's not actually built for handling a lot of volatility. So that's where that we realize that actually energy storage is going to be a very key requirement for electrification, both of energy production as well as how we consume energy in the form of EVs or any other application. So I would say it's not really that we stumbled upon it. It actually came out of the requirement of some of the majors in the industry that saw a lot of potential in this.
That's actually amazing. So how was this experience like starting up something with your friends? Would love to know more about it.
So, Shavi, I think for the three of us, it has been a very first principles journey all along. We started, we bonded together on just the possibilities of technology and how it can help us in our day to day lives. And we started doing some projects, and then we started freelancing, and then we got the hang of the fact that we just want to be on the front line. We really want, we are generalists. We like to solve the problem at the end of the day for the end customer. And we sort of registered the company in our third year itself. So the company that we are actually operating out of, it's registered since 2014. But we knew it very well that we had no idea about how to go about building a venture, because solving a problem and building a venture are like two different things altogether. Fortunately, we got a chance to join Grey Orange at an early age. Grey Orange was also a startup by some of the seniors from BITS Pilani, who were also first-time entrepreneurs straight out of college and had a complete outsider approach to solving the logistics industry. Typically, in logistics industry, you'll see very large players building very specialized solutions for solving things. But these guys came in, walked along, and said, that, "Why do we need to build specialized solutions, rather build robotic solutions which can be used across the board, which can be used for multiple applications?" So they had a very interesting outsider approach to the industry, and it also motivated us to sort of continue on our journey of discovering various sectors at which we could play. uh, Along with it, we were also very excited about sustainability as a theme that we saw early on, that it is going to dominate the next generation of businesses coming soon. We saw that internet had already optimized a lot of marketing with various solutions, various companies, but operations is something where or sustainability as a theme is going to play a big role, and a lot of companies would explore solutions which would help them be more sustainable, right? And which is going to create a new industry and altogether. So these were the basic motivations which we sort of stuck to, and all along the way we were just reacting to the first principles that we were seeing, and just taking decisions and moving step at a time.
That's actually really great and inspiring at the same time, because starting something new in your college time is really commendable indeed. So now moving with that, would love to know that what is actually virtual energy storage to you and how it works, because right now, again, as I mentioned in the starting, that this is still and somehow untouched. Okay,
Yeah.
this is something that people are not able to understand how to step into this field. So explain it to us so that we can get some more idea about it.
Sure. So let me just start with some of the context, very basic context on how the electricity sector works, and that would help understand what exactly virtual energy storage is. Very simply put, electricity grid is just a bunch of wires. It can move electricity around. It doesn't have the capability of storing energy. We were early consuming energy which was continuously getting generated by burning coal in power plants, and just transporting it across the board with the help of wires, which is where transmission companies play a role, distribution companies play a role, and finally we consume it at our offices and homes. Now, with the shift to renewables, we are predominantly moving to a new energy regime, not only in India but globally everywhere, where energy is not going to be continuously generated. We can't we can't control when the sun is there, so we can only capture it, and all we have to do is use it properly. So we can't let energy go to waste anymore. If we want to rely on sun, we want to rely on solar, which is actually dominating renewable energy source. Rather, not only dominating, it's actually financially very exciting also now. Coal production is at around 3 rupees per unit. Solar production is happening at around 2.5 rupees per unit. So it's actually cheaper also. So, which is the reason why solar sector is actually growing tremendously, not only in India, but everywhere. Today, India consumes around 18% of its energy through solar, and it is set to grow to around 60% by 2030. And it's set in stone to a certain extent, I would say, because I mean, whoever is going to supply is already sort of building that capacity out, preparing for it, buying real estate, doing everything right now. This fundamentally means that we are going to move to a grid which needs energy storage as a capability. Now, to build this capability, there are two ways. One is build infrastructure, build large battery banks or large sites where energy could be stored in various kinds of technologies. Or the second approach can be build a network which solves the problem of energy storage, like energy banking. So, very simply put, when we say cloud kitchens, we are actually not producing food up in the air. We have kitchens somewhere. It's just that we don't really care, or Zomato doesn't care where exactly the food is coming in, or if the person has a retail outlet or not. Similarly, by creating a network of batteries rather than building a dedicated infrastructure, we open up the possibility of solving energy storage for utilities, for power producing companies, by storing it in a network of batteries. So imagine you can have a car which is sitting idle, and that car is paying for itself. Why is it paying for itself? Because it's essentially being utilized by the grid for performing their energy storage at the times when they need to, and you have allowed them because it's idle. The car is idle at that point of time, and we know that how much cars are idle 90% of the time, right? So virtual energy storage essentially is a marketplace. It's a platform on one side which is solving spot sourcing of energy storage for utilities, large enterprises, and on the other side it's solving the monetization of idle time for whoever is buying battery based products. It can be businesses like battery swapping stations, it can be individuals who are buying electric cars, it can be fleet operators who are buying electric buses. So that's I've tried to simplify it, but that's what virtual energy storage is.
That's actually great to hear that, and especially the explanation was amazing indeed. Now, like, okay, Now, one question that comes, that how can actually virtual energy storage help mitigate the challenges faced by the energy grid during the periods of high demand? Because that's also one case, like in the high demands, how would you be able to cope up that thing?
The best way to understand it is understand it like this, that we are fundamentally consuming energy as a society, either on road or on buildings. So either we are driving around with our battery resources are going to be utilized towards mobility, or our battery resources are going to be engaged towards, they would going to be idle, sitting idle. So when there is actually peak demand on the grid, people are actually not moving so much, right? And similarly, when, so you can see a very direct correlation on the traffic of road and the grid load. So the more traffic on road, the lesser the grid load. The lesser the traffic on road, the more grid load. People are consuming energy at their offices or homes, right? So think of it like this, that we are just essentially allowing the battery resources that are coming in the form of EVs or any kind of electrification. Now they're just running round the clock, right? Instead of just sitting idle. And why it solves a problem for the grid is because today energy storage is not there, right? It's just not there today. India needs around 20 gigawatt hour of energy storage. We have less than 1 gigawatt hour built out. We have 95% undersupplied, right? And that's the biggest Achilles heel of scaling up solar. Solar can't be scaled up unless we can store the energy somewhere. Now, why is it not happening? Why, if it's such a big problem, why is government not putting up infrastructure? Because at the end of the day, we have to look at the feasibility of things also. So the problem is that this infrastructure is not utilized more than 4 to 5 hours a day, which actually limits its utilization, which limits its financial returns. And as a result, no one is actually interested in doing this, right? Now, what we are saying is that no need to do this. Let's just solve the problem via energy banking, which is another word for virtual energy storage. Fundamentally, you call it banking. Yeah, that's what banking does.
That was a great explanation indeed. And okay, now whenever we talk about something new, one thing which always comes, that what about the security and privacy? How would you be considering that? How security and privacy would be taken care when it comes to virtual energy storages, especially when it comes to cloud?
Sure. So I think when we look at virtual energy storage, there are two networks at play out here. One is the electricity grid, which is the physical network in which electricity is moving around. That network is something that it's not our in our control. It's actually the utilities network only. So all we have to, they are all, and touchwood, unfortunately, we have been able to run our utilities without a lot of data breaches in India so far. So if, let's say, if any data breach happens out there, that's something to be scaled or solved at a utility scale for all utilities in India. So if anything happens out there, it's actually a bigger problem than this. Other than that, the second network essentially that we're using to build this tech is the information network, which is knowing what is the current capacity of a battery with the help of IoT devices and putting that information together in our cloud. So we avoid using any kind of proprietary technology for security and privacy. We rather use those players and those companies that have already adhering to the highest standards of security, and we just ensure that it is up to the expectation of the utility.
That was really great. And talking about some other things, like tell us something about the decreased dependencies on the coal, because as you mentioned that how things are different, like it's around 3 rupees and now it's 2.5. Obviously, we have the difference of the pricing as well, it's cheaper. So like in that case, like how would be the decreased dependency on coal for the product for producing electricity would be a good thing?
See, I think coal is something that cannot be completely phased out. We are we can't generate electricity through solar at night, so we need like some, and similar, we can of course generate a lot of it in the afternoon, in the daytime, and then use it at night also. Similarly, we can use wind at the time of night when there's a lot of breeze, and that energy can also be captured. But coal would still be required to a certain extent. to a small extent, and that can be squeezed down with the scalability of solar and wind. So fundamentally, we have to essentially focus on scalability of solar and wind rather than phasing out coal, because the economic incentive of moving to solar and wind is already there, right? This is where we come in. This is what actually we are focusing on. We just want to make solar and wind so much scalable and reliable that governance doesn't, like, governments not only in India, matlab every government across the globe is able to confidently phase out or decrease their reliance on coal. uh, Coal is something that a lot of countries do not really, I mean, a lot of countries do import, but for example India also imports, but India also has its own reserves of coal. But the thing is that mining is not really a great activity. It's a big rehabilitation undertaking. We all know that even for a good thing like hydroelectric dams, rehabilitation project hasn't really worked out well in that case, right? Similarly, nuclear is not. That's the reason why nuclear is also not sort of explored further, because it's not good for the people. Don't really want it, right? It's a massive rehabilitation undertaking. So in that sense, electrification fundamentally checks a lot of boxes. It's not like hydrogen. uh, it doesn't create a stress on the water sources of the country. It's not like coal. It doesn't require that mining activity incrementally over and over. With electrification, there is one more possibility. We can recycle the batteries. We can recycle the semiconductor, right? With coal, it it just poof, right? So you just burn it and it's gone, right? So similar with petrol, right? So there is definitely some mining stress, mining work around this also, electrification also, but it can be squeezed down with recycling.
That's actually a great thing indeed, and a nice explanation indeed. Now, the last question for the today's podcast is that how do you see the future of energy production and consumption evolving with the rise of uh, with the rise and also the localization of the energy networks? Like, what are your perspective on it?
See, I think electrification is cheap. It's cheaper, at least. It's possible to own it by a country. Energy ownership actually is a very big concern for every country, so that they can boost their own economy, right? So electrification has that potential. Electrification is circular. It can be recycled. It can be used over and over, and of course, it's green, right? So there are a lot of, it's checking all the boxes. Um, in my viewpoint, if the complete potential is tapped into, 20 years hence, probably we'll be looking at a time where it'll be almost like going to a restaurant and not paying for the food, but rather just paying the service charge, right? Because you own your car, you own your solar panels, and now just it's a network that you sort of plug into to use that energy wherever you are, right? So I think that's very much a future possibility, and it would be it's a great future to be in.
That's actually nice. Thank you so much, Ankit, for sharing your amazing views on the virtual energy, and thanks a lot for that. And I have added Ankit's socials in the description below. Don't forget to check them out, and don't forget to connect with him. He would be a really great source of information for you. Indeed, if you are thinking of starting your own journey of EVs, or you want to know more about it, he would be the best person to reach out to. And with that note, thank you so much for coming in. It was really great hosting you today, and see you someday. Seeing you obviously someday making some more amazing things in this domain.
Thank you, Chavi.
Thank you so much. For the viewers, stay tuned with such amazing podcasts. I would be back with such amazing podcasts super soon. Till then, have a good day. Bye bye.